Hello, all, and welcome back to BookTube with Jenny Luez. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, ring the notification bell, do all the things so that this channel can grow and I can continue to produce free content for you each week. And thank you so much for taking the time to do that, friends. All right, in this installment of BookTube, we have My Abandonment by Peter Rock. My Abandonment, the book, was turned into a movie on Netflix. I highly recommend that you read the book first, because if you don't, the movie will be thoroughly confusing. You see, I am wearing my buffalo plaid shirt again, as I did in this video about the Seven Mountain Prophecy. Now, while mountains are referenced in both the book as well as the past video about the Seven Mountain Prophecy, that is where the similarities end. In this video, I am wearing my buffalo plaid and have my hair in the French braids because it's outdoorsy. My abandonment is all about people living off the grid and surviving and being in the woods. And so this is my Christmassy, woodsy look. Before I did anything else, I actually read the acknowledgement section in the back of the book. And boy, am I glad I did. In the acknowledgement section, the author wishes to thank a number of people, to include a debt to the amazing girls who made this story possible: Opal Whiteley, Elizabeth Smart, and Caroline X. Now, the only name out of those three that struck a chord with me was Elizabeth Smart. So I did a brief search online, looking up Opal, looking up Elizabeth, looking up Caroline X. Because this story, My Abandonment, is based on a true story. However, what isn't clear unless you look at the acknowledgement section and then dig a little further is that this book is not only based on one true story, but kind of integrates three in one. So there's a little bit of a kidnapping, supposed, perhaps, kind of left open-ended for the reader to decide for themselves. There is a lot of nature from a girl's perspective. Hello to Opal. Opal kept a nature journal, and this journal or nature diary was subsequently published. The author used Opal's words, her observations of nature, to guide him in putting together the voice of Caroline X within this book. Now, Caroline X is the narrator of My Abandonment, and I would say the book as a whole is roughly based on Caroline X more than anyone else. Now, I don't think that he necessarily actually worked with Elizabeth Smart or Opal's ancestors or talked to Caroline X herself. I think what this author did is saw a clip on the news and it struck his interest, and he followed it and decided to write a book all about it. His inspiration is based on a true story, but it actually is based on true stories. And so My Abandonment follows the true story of a father and his daughter who lived off grid in a park in Oregon. And I will link the actual newscast broadcast that shares this true story so that you have a basis of the truth before you dive in and read the book for yourself. I think having the knowledge of the actual truth just helps you to be able to dig in a little bit deeper to the author's own psyche and where he's coming from as he writes this book. For me, My Abandonment was intriguing because it was written from a 13-year-old girl's perspective. I did like that about this book. However, overall, I can only give this book a 3-star rating because it just wasn't for me. I felt it was a little slow, stilted. I didn't really like many of the characters overall. I didn't like the open-ended aspects. I didn't like my constantly second guessing. Did this father figure indeed kidnap this girl, or is she really his daughter? There comes a point in time where Caroline X starts to reflect back on when she was taken from the backyard of her supposed foster family. And I say supposed because that's the story that her father, who's raised her in the woods, has told her. She recalls lying by her sister in the backyard. She recalls having a camp out, being summoned, talked to, taken, told a story about how her dad was there to rescue her from the foster family that she belonged with, her bio family. Based on the fact that in the acknowledgement section, Elizabeth Smart was referenced, I think overall we're meant to conclude that Caroline X, within the pages of this book, was indeed kidnapped, and that she was raised thinking that the person raising her was her biological father, and that the people he took her away from were a foster family, but that she really did have a sister, and that that sister was her biological kin. In reality, within the true story, the true nugget basis of this book, the father did not kidnap his daughter. They did live off grid. He was worried that people were going to separate him from his daughter. That's why he chose to live off the grid. However, he did not kidnap her in real life. So that's where this book quickly diverges from fact to fiction. Now, at the end of the book, Caroline has a chance to reunite with her biological sister, and she chooses not to. And I'm left going, why? Now, perhaps she's gotten so used to being independent, living her own life, that when she catches a glimpse of her sister, maybe she thinks that her sister, of course, has been living her own life too, and that why muddy the waters? If she's been independent for so long, if she's been alone for so long, for Caroline, perhaps that isn't so much lonely as it's become her normal. And within the isolation, there's comfort because it's what she's grown to know. And how would she possibly relate to a bio sibling that hasn't lived off grid or lived the life that she has? However, I personally still wish that there had been a reunion of some sort, and we could have really truly found out, was that a foster family or not? Or was that whole unit her actual family? I would have liked to have known. I don't like things that haunt. I don't like things that stay with me, that only the author himself could really tell me, because he's the only one who's fully plotted out these characters. And I'm sure for him, there's most likely an end that he just chose not to include. Like, he could connect all the dots for us. But as a reader going in without having contacted the author, I cannot. And so for me, that's again a reason for it to be a 3-star. So the back of the book reads, a 13-year-old girl and her father live in Forest Park, an enormous nature preserve in Portland, Oregon. They inhabit an elaborate cave shelter, wash in a nearby creek, store perishables at the water's edge, use a makeshift septic system, tend a garden, and even keep a library of sorts. Once a week, they go to the city to buy groceries and otherwise merge with the civilized world. But one small mistake allows a backcountry jogger to discover them, which derails their entire existence, ultimately provoking a deeper flight. My Abandonment is a spellbinding journey into life at the margins and a stirring tale of survival and hope. The back cover copy makes it sound a lot more interesting than it was. I'm just shocked at the slow pace of it. It could have been a real page turner, and it was not. That being said, I suppose when you're living off grid, time moves slowly. And so perhaps the pacing of it being a little bit slow was on purpose to give you a sense of also being out in the wilderness, observing things around you. As for the movie, one, as mentioned previously, please do read the book first. Secondly, to be honest, I found the movie itself to be a waste of time, even despite having some back knowledge before it began and as it unfolded. What I appreciate about the movie is that it did stay more true to the actual facts of the storyline itself. However, the movie too was very open-ended and you just don't have a sense of full closure. And I just don't like it. I do find it fascinating that just like Kaya in Where the Crawdads Sing goes from complete isolation every now and then to going to town to get groceries, that is the same with my abandonment. And I suppose that would have to be the case in most places where somebody chooses to be a hermit. You can only grow so much. Every state has seasons, every state has its own weather patterns, and you can't fill your belly 100% necessarily from the seasonal things that you're able to grow or find in the wild. Therefore, every now and then, just like Kaya, Caroline and her father with my abandonment have to go into town. And so I find that to be really interesting too, because people did see them. People were aware of their presence, and yet they were able to stay off grid for years and years and years without anyone disturbing them, bothering them, overly questioning them, just respecting their privacy and respecting that they are getting their groceries, that they see that they're clean and healthy and not lacking for anything necessarily. And so, to each their own. If somebody doesn't appear to be in trouble, to each their own. So I found this to be very fascinating and interesting on one hand, and yet just because of the slow pace and open-endedness and somewhat stilted aspects of this book, I had to give it a 3-star. I just couldn't find my way to anything higher. And that's unfortunate because I was intrigued by the back. I'm intrigued by the cover. I'm intrigued after reading the acknowledgement section. That was kind of genius by this author to make it 3 true stories as a basis woven into one. I just feel like it could have been done a little bit better. So I guess that's it. I don't know about you. Where I'm currently living, it is fall. So I am already getting myself indoors, and a book like this does not inspire me to live off grid in the woods anytime soon. Perhaps there'll be a different book for that. All right, friends, until next time.